So the Scottish Government faces the prospect of a legal challenge if the proposed assisted suicide bill going through Holyrood is approved by MSPs. It's a regional variant of the rollout globally of, like what you see in Canada with the MAID program. And even people on disabilities that apparently financially struggling. And they were told, well, have you thought about assisted suicide? I mean, no jokes, seriously. And you see other examples of that around the world, yeah? And of course it ties into the population reduction aspect. And remember, well, you can tie so many people currently who are seen as an expense to the state, yeah? The elderly, for example, many, let's be honest, with a frightening level of, well, various neurological disorders. Call them what you will, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, various other things. And yet when you look at how much the diet has changed in the last 40 plus years, seriously, I've said it in other vids, we were all on things like beef dripping up until right throughout the 70s. And from my memory, it would be very early 80s when all of a sudden veggie oils, various vegetable oils, were sold to us as the best thing. And they would emphasize, from memory at the time, polyunsaturates, all the rest of it, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, these things are not good for us. Seed oils are not good for us. We don't have the stomach for it. That's why cattle, with 4 stomachs can consume and absorb things that our body's not set up to do. That's it, yeah? But when you look at neurological disorders, yeah, it's astounding the amount of, shall we say, those in their winter years who, if they're on animal fats, beef dripping, etc., the incidences of those neurological disorders or apparent are far less. Yeah, obviously it's a complex subject, but think about how many people, and even the ages of people who are all of a sudden having neurological aspects like Alzheimer's, strokes, you name it. It's getting far younger. But then you look at things like Diet Coke, aspartame, various other things. What's known as excitotoxins. I mean, it's a very complex subject. But while more by the day we're exposed to the toxicity of an ideology sold to us as healthy, meanwhile, they're quite literally, and they are, by the day, expanding who would be a candidate for assisted suicide. And they all sell it with a righteous, look, and they give the most horrendous examples of people in vast amounts of pain, and wouldn't it be a kindness and all the rest of it. But as the individual who, this Tom Cross KC, who is on the panel of the Council for the Equality and Human Rights Commission, states in a legal opinion prepared for the Christian Institute that the legislation contains inadequate safeguards for people with disabilities. He says the bill is in breach of Article 14 of the ECHR, which contains the provision that everyone's right must be protected equally. He says it would unfairly discriminate against people with conditions such as autism, bipolar, and depression. And all those 3 aspects, for example, are through the roof now. But then when you look behind the scenes at, well, as a Gen Xer, early Gen Xer, look, I got some kind of shot as a child. I had no consent over, obviously. I think another one at some point. And I would consider myself lucky in comparison to so many people. And well, look at the vaccine schedule for most children these days. It's absolutely outrageous. I mean, it's scores of different jags, yeah? And the emotional blackmail of parents, and look, if you don't do this, like horrible things could happen to a child. And now apparently they're just coming out with a chickenpox vaccine. And when you look at that one alone, I mean, I'll repeat, early Gen Xer, our generation, if we had chickenpox, we were sort of like pushed into a room full of other children so that it spread and their immunity was fine and everybody got, and I seem to remember it was either that or was it German measles, which was called, well, it was called that at the time, something else called German measles. I think it's now rubella, whatever. Even as a child, you were told to stay away from pregnant women. All these common sense things were being taught to children. At least in the 70s, yeah? But you just look where this goes. Because by hook or by crook, this will go through. And those, I'll repeat, candidates, and everything will be diluted about, any kind of oversight, all the rest of it, till it becomes the mundane. That's why fine people came out with things like Logan's Run. And other, accurate interpretations of where the future was going, yeah? Honestly, I'm frustrated that I can't remember the name of the book, but in my defense, I was a fairly young child at the time, and it was just one of these books that might have had a lot of different stories, but I remember the potency of one particular story where it basically said, something that looked like a mausoleum for those who were having a tough time in life or no longer wanted to live, that they would just enter it and never be seen again. And honestly, I'm sure the story was from somewhere like 100+ years ago. Believe me, they've been thinking about this for a very long time. If anybody can remember anything like that story, let me know in the comments. But I'll leave you a link to this. This isn't going away. Believe me. It is absolutely about a belief system shared by an interconnected death cult that believes there's way too many of us. And, even when you look at the Georgia Guidestones, which, funnily enough, are no longer there. And while some naive went, well, it's just people who woke up and decided to destroy that monument. No, it was absolutely down to the occultists going, no, this is pretty bloody obvious as it's surrounded by holly. That's another thing you should look into when it comes to the occult. But yeah, anyway, I hope this made some sense. Share if you care. Please subscribe. Do me the honour. And I'll speak to you soon.